Hi, everybody. How are we doing this morning? Yay. Well, thank you guys so much for coming to learn how to be a delegate for the RNC convention. I know it can be a little confusing process, but the good news is we have the top 3 battleground states with us. We have Nate Jackson for the AZ GOP. He's the second vice chair. We have Bob.
Good job.
We have Jason Thompson, who's the national committeeman for Georgia. And we have Brandon Malley, who is our Dane County chair up in Wisconsin and our Wisconsin field representative for Turning Point Action. So we're kind of just going to go over the basics today of like how to run for a delegate, and then we're going to do a Q&A session where you guys can kind of ask these 3 people who are very educated on the process, especially in their states. Please keep in mind that it is very different state to state, and we do have other RNC members here as well, just depending on your state, that they can also answer the questions too. We're very excited to have some RNC members here. They're one of the good ones. I know that we're constantly talking about how much we hate the RNC, but we do not. We love these people. They're great, true patriots, and we're very excited to have them here. So without further ado, we're going to start. So obviously the RNC convention this year is going to be in Milwaukee. So Wisconsin is one of the very important states that we need to win in order to win this election. So first off, delegate allocation. So in some states, it can kind of be a winner take all. So it can be statewide or by congressional district. Some states can be proportional. So that's also statewide or by congressional district, and they can have thresholds. So if it's less than 50% of the vote, it's going to be winner takes all. If it's greater than 20% or equals to 20% of the vote required to receive any delegates. So the kind of plan that your GOPs probably have already submitted is kind of how that will work and how the over-under allocation of delegates results from rounding will be handled. Binding, so some delegates are binded just dependent on what their bylaws say. So the rules of statewide presidential preference vote must be used to bind delegates through the first ballot. So delegates elected directly on the primary ballot do not have to be bound. States may bind their delegates through additional ballots, and some rules may, differ just depending. But it's pretty much based on what the bylaws say. And parameters for unbinding are clearly addressed in the Rule 16F for filing, which is the RNC rules. Timing, so this is kind of just like a layout of when these things begin. So proportional states like Iowa, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Carolina, kind of like our first in the nation states, they started sooner, and they're no earlier than 1 month prior to the next earliest state. So they can use all of these thresholds in allocation and still be considered proportional. And then by March 15th, the winner-take-all states begin, and then by May 31st, it's the last day to conduct delegate election, selection, allocation, and binding processes. So May 31st is like the deadline for the last time that you can become a delegate. There are penalties if, their delegates are chosen too early or too late. You can kind of lose delegates just based on that. Some non-proportional delegate allocation, if it's before March 15th, your delegation could be reduced by 50%. And these are all RNC rules, so this is just kind of based off what they presented on back in Milwaukee. So Arizona. So this is kind of a timeline of what it looks like, or like a step-by-step to become a delegate. So each congressional district caucus elects delegates and alternates pursuant to the national call, and then each congressional district and caucus shall elect them. So they, and then, each alternate within the district then will be listed and serve in order determined by the number of votes that they've received. And then at the state convention, they will elect delegates and alternates. And then lastly, the alternates are listed and they serve at the national convention by how they're listed. And then we'll kind of go over that more in depth once we get into Q&A. So for Georgia, delegates and alternates are elected from the districts at their respective district conventions. So they elect 3 delegates and 3 alternates, and then they're bound to vote for candidates depending on the outcome of the Georgia presidential preference primary in each congressional district. The delegates and alternates to the national convention are then elected at the state convention, and that's at the state convention they elect 14 delegates and 14 alternates, and then they're bound to vote for candidates on that. And then from Okay, yes, we'll go into that afterwards. I was just going off your bylaws, but okay, it might be different. And then they're bound to vote, but I guess Jason will go more into depth with that one. and then Wisconsin, and then Brandon, just correct me if I'm wrong. So step 1, your total number of delegates and equal number of alternate delegates shall be those numbers fixed by the formulas set forth by the rules for the RNC. So for every delegate you have an alternate, so it's an equal number. So if you have 10 delegates, you have 10 alternates. So that way someone can fill in. If you're like sick or something happens, they can just go in and vote for you, because there's no proxies allowed at convention. Step 2 of the total number fixed, the 3 district delegates and the 3 district alternate delegates are designated from the district of each representative in the U.S. House of Representatives. And then step 3, it's kind of a little bit wordy, but the candidate receiving the plurality of votes, they're entitled to control 3 delegates and 3 alternates for nomination for the president, and unless the delegates and alternate delegates are released by the candidate, or the candidate fails to receive at least 1/3 of the votes cast in any vote of nomination. And then step 4, a candidate receiving plurality of the statewide votes in the presidential primary is entitled to control all of the delegates and alternate delegates designed at large on all votes for nomination by President of the United States. So those are kind of our 3 battleground states. So this is the more important part of the PowerPoint. So how many delegates does my state get? So in the Rule 17 of the RNC bylaws, every state gets 10 delegates. And then they get their state chair, their national committee man, and their national committee woman. So that's 13. And then this part can be a little confusing, but again, we'll go over it in Q&A. From each state having cast its electoral votes or a majority thereof for the Republican nominee for President of the United States in the last preceding election, 4 1/2 delegates at large plus a number of the delegates at large equals 60% of the number of electoral votes in that state. So Arizona wouldn't be getting that because that didn't happen last time. So allegedly, yes. And then you get 1 additional for each of these being a Republican in your state. So you get another delegate if your governor is a Republican. You get another delegate if half of your congressional delegation is Republican, and at least 1 state legislative body in the House or Senate, or all state legislative bodies in the House and Senate, and then each senator, so 2 max. So at large versus congressional, they're alternates. So should I run for delegate or alternate? Yes, you absolutely should. Why should you think about becoming a delegate? Delegates help comprise the platform committee that ultimately votes and debates the RNC's platform for the next 4 years. So obviously you guys all know the Republican Party has a platform, which is, pro-life, pro-God, pro-gun, all those, awesome things. And then like anybody, delegates vote on the rules, and they're only protecting the body to enforce and defend a fair playing field for nominating our candidates. Is it hard to become a delegate? Yes, it is not easy in some states. As you guys are probably reading through all of this, it's a lot to read and it's a lot to understand, especially if you've never been involved in this process before. So it can be very confusing, but that's what we have these sessions for. Some states have hundreds of people run, and ultimately they'll only send a handful of people. But this absolutely should not stop you from running, because we need patriots like yourselves to be delegates and alternates. So think about building your name ID during this time among your precinct leaders now who can ultimately help you get elected in your state. So is it expensive to be a delegate? Yes, it is not cheap. In some states to be a delegate. Some states will require you to pay a fee for the convention, and on top of that, it usually costs between $3,000 to $8,000 to fly, stay in a hotel, pay for transportation, food, and the events that usually surround each convention, just depending on what part of the country you're traveling from. So, obviously these are things that our organization is here to help with, because we need more conservatives going to convention. And so it's super important that if you are planning on running and that is something that you want to do, there'll be a QR code that you can scan, you fill out a form, and our staff will be able to help you. Right here. So if you're interested in running for delegate, please scan this QR code. A form will come up. It'll come directly to our staff. And obviously we're here for the next 2 days, so hopefully we can get back to you guys within about a week or so, and maybe in the January and the new year, and be able to answer any questions that you guys may have, because we absolutely want to aid and assist in anybody that is interested in running for this position. It's super important, like that last slide said, to build name ID with your precinct leaders, because those are the people that ultimately are going to be helping you. And obviously we have staff in all the top 10 battleground states that are, the best. I don't care what any other organization says, we have the best field team. I don't know what AFP thinks they're saying, but we have the best field team in America, and they are consistently out there recruiting precinct committeemen, recruiting precinct chairs to help with things like this. So now we're kind of going to go into Q&A with the people that are in charge. So we have some state chairs here. So we have Dave Williams here from Colorado. So we're really excited to have him here. And then there should be a few trickling in. If I missed you, I'm so sorry. But all of the RNC members here are very able to answer any questions that you guys may have. So more than happy to kind of kick it off. But Jason, if you wanted to go over the Georgia thing real quick, yeah, definitely go ahead and dive into that.
Okay. And then again, I could have even misheard you too. But in Georgia, before you even get to the state convention, we also elect delegates and alternates in the district. So there's a total of 76. So I wasn't a math major, but anyway, there's 14 at large at the state. So we have 3 delegates and alternates at each district, and we have 14 districts. Okay. Let me also say this. I see a lot of young people here today, which is awesome. And one of the things, yeah, you can clap because that's cool. As someone that's been involved in the Republican Party for a long time, I've been a district chair, I've done everything you could possibly imagine at this point. What I don't want to see anymore is when the camera pans the crowd of the Republican National Convention as a bunch of decrepit old white people, all right? It's got to stop. And I'm really encouraging youth to run. But let me tell you this, too. It's tough, but do it anyway. Run for it anyway. And the reason, because we need change. Number 2, organization will die off if we don't have change, right? If we don't have young people coming into it. And I was just say, here's our state chairman here, Josh McCoon. Thanks for showing up, Josh. What was I going to get to? I saw, as a lifelong Viking fan, I was a little hesitant when they said it was going to be the National Convention in Milwaukee, all right? But I think it's actually going to be a really great location, Milwaukee is. When we were there, they had law enforcement everywhere, and they were really protecting everybody, and I expect the same thing when we have the national convention. I probably ate like 3 pounds of cheese curds while I was there too. But let me just say this about delegates and alternates to the national convention. A lot of times, just like electors, they're almost like delegates to national convention. It's almost like an award for a lifetime achievement award or something that people get those positions, all right? So that's what, for young people, that's kind of what you're fighting against. At the same time, though, that shouldn't prohibit you from trying to do this. And the best thing you can do is talk amongst, find a coalition of people so you can get votes and run together for delegate and alternate. That's the key way to win. I've seen it happen over and over again, whether it's older folks or younger folks. That's the key to winning, is to get a delegate spot at however you do it, whether it's through a caucus or at a district convention at your state convention, or even if you have to run by ballot in some states. All right, the best thing to do is to get together a coalition. And look amongst yourselves right now. You've got a coalition. Start building your coalitions within your own state for Turning Point as well. All right, so you can find more people, more young people, and you've got that coalition going. I could keep going and going. But do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to say something about Wisconsin, or do we want to just take questions? I think we should take questions. Okay, does anybody have a question right now about, yes, sir, in the back? No.
So
That's going to be the 168.
yeah, it's the 168 RNC members. It would take a 2/3 vote to do that.
But we are working to get rid of her.
And the 168 are each state chairman and then their national committeeman and the national committee woman.
And the territories are involved in that too. So the Marina Islands, the Virgin Islands, they're all accounted for that as well. Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between an elector? What's the difference between an elector and a delegate, or is there a difference? Yeah.
So when you're talking about electors, those are the electors that elect the President of the United States, right? When we're talking about delegates and alternates, this is an inter-party thing to choose our nominee for president, okay, at the national convention.
So your electors are based off of how many votes the state gets. So Arizona, we have 11 electors. So when you actually vote for president, if you actually look closely, you'll see 11 names under the president, and those are your 11 electors.
Yes, ma'am, in the green.
I was wondering if you could talk about developing the party platform and why that's important for us to get involved.
Yeah, I think the RNC hasn't changed their platform since like 2014. So that means we have a Mitt Romney platform in a post-Trump era. So it hasn't changed in a very long time. And I think it's important that we get great delegates that go to the convention. That way we can change the party platform to fit where we fit today.
Well, I'd actually like to say our platform is pretty solid the way it is right now. However, what we do expect are people that want to change our platform and liberalize our platform, all right? If you can look at the platform, it's online at rnc.org, it's great. But what we expect is a real push for, moral degenerates to try to change our platform, in a nutshell, yeah.
Yes, ma'am, in the cowboy hat. Love your hat.
How can we get rid of Ronald McDaniel?
So look, I'm the national committee man from Georgia. There's Josh, he's the chairman from Georgia. We get the same question anywhere, and Georgia's a very diverse state. I mean, not only topographically, if that's a word, mountains, and it's just a gorgeous state. But anywhere throughout the state, whether we're in Metro Atlanta, whether we're in North Georgia, we're down in South Georgia, we get that same question everywhere. And so there's two ways, to be honest. There's only one real way, but a practical way. 168 people have to call a special vote and vote to replace her. The odds of that happening or being successful are not good, okay? The real way is for President Trump to ask her to step down.
Right.
That's the real only, he's the one that put her there, okay? He's the one that put her there, and if he wants her to go, he'll ask her to go. Now, of course, she could say no, but that's truly, I think, the most practical way is that if. Oh. Because there's.
So, hold on, let me touch base on this one. So here at Turning Point Action, we have a project called the Mount Vernon Project, and the entire thing behind it is getting conservatives elected to the Republican National Committee. So the RNC members that you see here today, Lori Hines, our North Dakota National Committee woman, Fanchon Blythe, our Nebraska National Committee woman, Deborah Lamb, our Montana National Committee woman, Josh McCoon, our Georgia State Party Chair, Dave Williams, our Georgia State Party Chair. Am I missing? Oh, sorry, Colorado. Y'all forgive me, please. And I don't know if I'm missing anybody, but we have found candidates to run for these positions to get these, establishment people out. So we have Laurel Eimer here, who is running for Colorado National Committee woman. And then Matt Brown, I know I saw you in here somewhere. So Matt Brown right here is running in Washington as National Committee man. And then Hannah Joy, I saw you somewhere. She's over here running for Washington National Committee woman. And if I miss anybody, I'm so sorry. But right now, we literally are working day and night to recruit candidates to replace these people on the RNC. And so the RNC members that you see here today are all part of that project. Like they're all invited to be here. They're all excellent RNC members. Those are the people we do not need to be replacing. Those are the people that are on our side, and they're going to help us make the RNC a lot more conservative. The RNC has been trending upwards since the election. We had a slew of state party chairs get elected. Julianne Murray, our Delaware GOP chair, is incredible. She will actually be on the panel for the RNC town hall later if you would like to come see her. She's awesome. And so, you have state party chairs that are actually, working very hard. And as soon as we have the majority, then Ron McDaniel's reign of terror will be over.
So, and when we took the vote at Dana Point, just by example, I believe Harmy Dillon got 51. 55 votes. Mike Lindell got, yeah, that's right, 51. Mike Lindell got 4, and Ronna McDaniel got the rest of the votes. So that was, what, 100, she got like 113. So that's what we're up against. And look, when she won, I tell this story, and I don't care if she were to get mad about this, but there was thunderous applause in the hallway of where we did the vote. It wasn't coming from the 168 people. It was coming from all these grifters who were getting their contracts renewed, who were lining the hallways of the place of where we were voting. So that's the reality of it, and that's what we're up against.
Well, and the good news is a lot of these RNC members that did vote for Ronna see the writing on the wall. You have people who are not running again, and they understand it is because the grassroots are upset with them. And so I know we want to talk about RNC stuff, but the good news is that we will have that conversation later at 11. So I kind of want to jump back into delegates and alternates and how to get that to the RNC convention. But if you guys do want to come to our town hall later, please do. We're going to have a panel. It's a Q&A literally the whole time, so we can get all that answered. But I kind of want to defer to Brandon.
So I'm going to add on to this, right? Why are we making the ask that you become a delegate or an alternate in your area? Well, the biggest question or the biggest comment that I get as county chair in Wisconsin was, folks, Wisconsin's a 5-alarm fire, right? Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, this is the roadmap to the presidency. Now, the biggest commentary I get, the grassroots are not being listened to, right? I travel the state. Dane County is a very blue area, and I hear it. We're being ignored. Our blue areas in the swing states are getting completely ignored. I go around the state, I hear the same thing, right? In the rural areas, urban areas, we are asking you to do this so that you can take ownership of this party, right? I ran for chair because I didn't like the direction it was going in, and I decided to take ownership, and I won. And we're taking the party in a much more business and data-minded direction.
How many votes did you win by?
It was the largest caucus in the state of Wisconsin. It was a 2-to-1 landslide.
And he was the incumbent, correct?
I ran against the 9-year incumbent. So if I can do it, right? If a 5'3" Jewish guy that's under 25 can do it, anybody can run and win for delegate or alternate. Do it, because this is going to set the stage for getting a new RNC chair, right? If we can show that the RNC delegates are majority grassroots-minded folks, we are going to flip the RNC.
Correct. Did anyone have any more questions on how to, yes, sir?
Hi there. I just have one question for the three of you. What message would you have to say to young Republicans who do run for the RNC delegate but don't get selected to go to the convention by their respective states?
Great question, since we're all doing that.
Well, I'm going to say win. Plan to win. That's what I did. I took it very seriously. I ran it as a 2-month campaign. When I ran for chair, I treated it as if it were a congressional race. We used data. We had meet and greets. We had events. I had one-on-ones. We sent texts. We did a text campaign. We did mailers. We did everything we could to recruit and win. Do the math. Know your area. Get involved in your local GOP if you aren't already. If you do the math and you show your passion for the party, you're going to win. So my advice to you is do the math and win.
Well,
And one thing is it's important, start getting involved, if you're not already, in your local GOP on campaigns for people. Start beefing up your political resume. Because what will probably eliminate you is if you go in and say, hey, here I am and I want to be a delegate, and you don't really have any sort of experience whatsoever. That goes for anybody, young or old, okay? Again, those are things that people are looking at when they're like, well, why should you be a delegate? Well, I love, either Republican Party or conservative principles or whatever. Usually that in itself isn't enough. So get active so you can build that political resume so you have to show to people.
And just to kind of touch base on the Young Republican thing, so I'm the chair of the Arizona Young Republicans here. Nate is also involved with that, and Katie right here is our national committee woman. Abby Gonzalez is also on that as well. So, we have been, reading into the bylaws and making sure we've done our research and due diligence on how to become a delegate, so that way we are prepared for when the time comes. And we, like Brandon was saying, strategically, just making sure we do have the votes and that we are, building up name ID across with the people that will be voting on us. Dave, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Well, I just wanted to ask the three of them a leading question to
Okay.
help with the crowd here. That's two questions. Number one, and I'll explain just a little bit of Colorado, so set the stage. In Colorado, in order to become a national delegate, you have to first become a county delegate or alternate, and then you got to become a state delegate or alternate, and then you're then qualified to run for national delegate. With respect to that, that's one way for, at least in Colorado, for people to have an impact on the national committee woman and man race. Because if you want to run for national delegate, you got to go through that gambit, and our state delegates are then going to be electing the national committee men and committee women in order to represent the 168. So that gets back to the Ronna McDaniel question. Is that the same in your three states? And then number two, with respect to being successful when running for national delegate, what we found in Colorado, and is it similar in your states, what we found in Colorado is that if you join similar slates of specific issue coalitions or groups, like if you're part of the major state pro-life slate, or if you're part of the pro-Second Amendment slate, if you're on multiple slates, your name is there multiple times on those slates, does that increase your chances of getting elected as a national delegate?
Well, I can address the first part of the question, right? In Wisconsin, we have a system where you need to become a county party member. To become a county party member, you have to pay. It's usually between $15 and $35. Become a member. Usually these counties are not filling their delegate allotments to the congressional caucus, where you'll then be elected as a national, as a delegate or an alternate, right? So you pay, you get in the county party, you want to do this now, right? You want to do this way before these caucuses start showing up to the meetings if you haven't already. And in Wisconsin, the young Republicans, the college Republicans are a huge asset to us, right? They have a network all around the state. So if you're young and you're running and you get involved with the Wisconsin Federated College Republicans chair, they're going to make sure that they get all of their young people out into those county parties, so then they can vote and get the kind of delegates and alternates that we want, so they can be a resource too. But you go through your county party, then the caucus. It's a little bit pay to play in Wisconsin, unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. So in Arizona, it's actually unique. You don't have to be a part of the party, a PC, which is precinct commitment, to run for a delegate. Anybody can be. So that means you could, I don't encourage it because, it's harder for somebody who's, not really involved, as what they were saying is you really want to be involved with your county party or where you're running in. You don't just want to come out of nowhere and say, hey, I'm running, I want to be a delegate. I think you should definitely get involved first. Know your people who are in your district or your congressional district. Talk to them, get involved, work with campaigns, work with, clubs, organizations, so people know who you are. They see your face. They don't just think you're just some, random person coming up and saying, hey, all of a sudden I want to get involved. Definitely put in the effort. It's all about the effort. If you could get in a slate, but if you're somebody who just walk in with two people who've been involved, it's going to be harder. The people are going to trust the two that they've seen a lot, right? They've seen them at events, they've seen them at meet and greets. It could split the vote. You could get two and then another person. So slates might work, but I definitely, in Arizona, I would encourage people to get involved first. Get involved, become a precinct committeeman, be a part of clubs, organizations, so that way people know who you are. And what mentioned earlier is, if you don't win this time, definitely put in all your effort. It's you that puts in the effort to win. You can't just all of a sudden go and then you don't win and you're discouraged and then you never get involved ever again, right? We see a lot of candidates do that, right? They run, they lose, and then you never hear of them ever again. I think they should definitely, run. If you run for Congress, Senate, whatever you aspire to be as a Republican, get involved. Everybody looks up to you. We have a lot of candidates that look up, say, hey, I want to be like that person. Oh, look, now they're at my LD meeting. They're coming to events. They're coming to meet and greets. Definitely get involved. Definitely, if you don't win this time, we're all young. We have many presidential elections and state conventions to go to if we can't win this one.
And in Georgia, ours is very similar. You go to the precinct caucus, then you go to the county convention. At the county convention, they elect delegates to go to the district convention. At the district conventions, they elect national delegates and alternates, 3 at each district convention. We have 14 districts. I should have said at the county convention, we also elect delegates not only to go to the county convention, but the state convention, and at the state convention, we have at-large delegates. But back to the slates. Even if you're within a slate, and another slate, obviously, are slates for candidates, okay? Also a big deal, probably even bigger than issues. But even within the slate, if you know, you're running with people and they're trying to pick a slate of delegates and alternates to run at a district convention or a state convention or however you do it, they still want people that have had some sort of experience. So please get involved if you're not already as soon as you can. There's 2 other RNC members right here, Patty Lyman and Roger Viller. 2 of our best, actually.
Jeff DeWitt, also our Arizona State Party chair, just walked in as well. And Roger Villery is our Louisiana National Committee man. Yes, sir.
Forgive me if I came in late. I don't know if you maybe touched on this, but I was a national delegate in 2016, and I wanted to know, because I was considering maybe at-large delegate this time. I don't know if y'all touched on that, or if that's a viable option to look at.
What state are you in?
Texas.
Texas.
I honestly think it's easier to become a delegate at your district if you do it that way than it is an at-large delegate to the state, because there's a lot of politicking going on at the state, and maybe political favors, and maybe you have a chair that's trying to, you know, get favors or money from somebody and for delegates and things like that. And I think it's much easier to get a delegate or alternate position at a district convention. That's just my take on it from what I've seen over the years. But let me say this too: if you can always still go as a guest of a delegate or an alternate. Matter of fact, the best time I ever had at a national convention was when I went as a guest, believe it or not. I did. I ended up in a booth that I wasn't supposed to go into. It was in Minneapolis. I'll try to make the story short.
You're fine.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do.
Well, I went there. My wife was a delegate, and a friend of ours was an alternate, and we rented a car because our hotel was like out in the boondocks compared to where everyone else was within Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And so we rented a car, and we got there early, and we went in. They said, the security guy said, "You two can go down to the floor." And you, pointing at me, he said, "You're in suite 104 or whatever." Well, this was like the best suite there was. And I'm like, wow. After all my years and all the stuff I've done, like someone's rewarding me here. And I mean, there was like heavy hors d'oeuvres, there was like beer and drinks everywhere. And there was only one person in there, this barmaid. And she said, I said, "I don't know if I'm supposed to be here." And she said, 104, "Yeah, you are. You want a beer?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And then so the next 4 days, I was there, 10 minutes. All right, I'll try to wrap it up in 10 minutes, thanks. I love telling this story, but the next 4 days, the Georgia delegation was getting jealous. Okay, people were like, "Why are you in there?" You know how people get. They're, "Why are you in there?" And then it went from, can I get in there? So I was sneaking people in, and every time my wife looked up, I'm in between all these old ladies with like big hats and, you know, necklaces and everything, and waving down to everybody, you know, from the suite. The last day, McCain and Palin were speaking, and it was in the morning. I couldn't wait to get to this suite. And I said, "I'll see y'all later. I'm going to my suite." "Well, weren't you going to hang out with us?" "No, I was too excited to go to the suite." I went up there, and they had extra security. And they said, this lady, the new lady that was there, along with the barmaid that had been there the whole time, the new lady said, "I'm sorry, you're not supposed to be here." And I said, "What are you talking about? I've been coming all week." And I turned to the barmaid lady girl that was there, and she said, "Yeah, I know, I let you in, but I wasn't supposed to." And so I felt humiliated and grateful at the same time. It was a weird thing. And my actual seat was really supposed to be in the nosebleed section, way up. So the last day I spent, like, you know, looking down at what looked like ants on the ground. but you can have a lot of fun going as a guest, is my point, okay?
And just to kind of touch base back there, the national committee man, Dr. Robin Armstrong, we have an excellent relationship with, so I'm more than happy to put you in touch with him. And if you're in your state and you have any questions about your state, like let me know, let any of these RNC members know. They will be more than happy to plug you in with that person. Just wanted to recognize our North Dakota chairwoman, Miss Sandy Sanford, that just walked in the back. She has an excellent story. She defeated their incumbent. He's awful. You could literally ask them about him. She won by 1 vote, people. 1 vote. And so I know that, yeah, definitely applaud. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, yep. I was just getting there. I know that we think our votes don't count anymore, but I promise you in these elections, they do count, they do matter, but in these elections, they're super important. So that was an excellent win for us, and she's been doing a wonderful job. So yes, Miss Deborah Lamb in the back, you had a question.
No, I just wanted to add to something Jason said.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely apply to be, or go through the process to be a delegate, but don't be disappointed if you're not elected. There are other opportunities, and one of them is volunteer. You can go to be a volunteer at the convention, and you would be down, some of you would be down on the floor. It's a totally different experience. If you're young and involved, like attorney person or someone involved in your county central committee, there are actual intern positions available. So there are other opportunities. I'm on that committee within the Committee on Arrangements for volunteers. So if you're interested in that, by all means, I'd be happy to help you in that process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, please talk to these RNC members. They're the most wonderful, incredible people you'll ever meet.
And I just thought, and I'm probably not even supposed to say this, but it's just a reality of what goes on at the RNC, is that at the Republican National Convention, is let's say you're a delegate or even a guest. I've done this over the years, and I've had people do this for me, is to switch out your credentials with them, so you can go down to the floor, okay?
Okay, yes, Miss Patty Lyman. No, you're fine.
You talked about delegate slates.
Yeah, so Dave asked the question about what it means to be on a slate, but definitely feel free to touch base on that.
In Virginia, what we decided to do is, we had some problems in 2000. Sorry, we had some problems in 2016 with some recalcitrant delegates and people throwing their credentials on the floor and that kind of a thing. So what we decided to do is each campaign that's going to be on the ballot in Virginia, I think 5 are going to be on our ballot for our primary. Each campaign has chosen their own slate of delegates, each campaign. So I was zooming around, rounding up true blue Trumpers that are never switching no matter what, and other campaigns I'm sure did the same thing. And so based on our primary results in our congressional districts and overall in the state, that is who's going to end up being a delegate. There's all these slates chosen, and depending how the voting goes, that's how you become a delegate. So there's no electing people, there's no big shots, picking big donors, none of that.
Can you explain exactly what a slate is?
Yeah. You wanna talk about it?
I mean, a slate is basically, you get, a group of 3 for a congressional district, right? In Arizona, there's 3 per congressional district, and all 3 people, there might be 30, 40 people running. 3 of you go, hey, you know what? We're going to get together. We're going to run on this specific platform to win, and you stick to that platform, and you 3 are technically, together, and you're hoping that all 3 people will get to become a delegate. You run, you go to events together, you talk to each other, you go to events, so everyone knows those 3 are the only 3 to vote for. And then you make flyers, so then people get it, and they're like, hey, you know what? There's 40 people running, but I've only seen these 3 names, 20 times. These are the only people I know who are running.
Yes, Lori. And we have 5 more minutes, so.
Super fast. In North Dakota, we have a completely different system than all the rest of y'all do.
Yes,
In North Dakota, it's very unusual. We have in our state only 780,000 people total. We have under 1 million people in the whole state. But our system is completely different. We self-nominate on a form online, and anybody in the state that wants to be nominated can nominate themselves, and then their names all go on a massive ballot at our state convention, and at our state convention, those could be 2,500 people that come to our state convention in North Dakota, and 780,000 people, and we get 2,500 people, very red state. But those people then get elected from that slate of people that self-nominate. So it's a little different in every state. Make sure you know what the rules are in your state. Everyone's different.
Yeah, super important. Last question, Miss Laurel. I know, I'll do it. Maybe.
And remember, at every one of these things, it's who shows up. So if you have a huge group of people, you can take over any convention.
So as a previous delegate from Colorado, I just also want to tell you that when you're running, you need to know your game plan and you need to be passionate about what you're running for. Because depending on the competition in the room that you're in Colorado, where I'm from, there could be a lot of competition. So you've got to be able to plead your case with that group that are voting for you. So know your facts, know your data, be passionate, just like an aggressive job interview. So make sure that you're ready to bring your A game and sell yourself. You need to be able to sell yourself to the people who are voting for you. They need to trust you. They need to know you. You need to be able to communicate that to them. That's just my advice as a former delegate.
Thank you. Okay, just kidding. This will be our last question right here.
So what's the kind of time commitment of being a delegate? Is it like a full-time job? Is it something that's like a paid thing other than just attending the different conventions? And then also, what's kind of your ability to speak freely as a delegate? Are you kind of just pushing RNC platform stuff, or you said you're kind of building your political name brand? Is it something that you can kind of speak out on for the issues that are very important to you?
Well, there's kind of two different things there, I think you asked. So first of all, as a delegate, you're representing your state, right? And so you're also representing, of course, yourself. So the states don't vote as a block, all right? There's a rule prohibiting that. But so you're going there for the sole purpose of electing a presidential candidate and vice presidential candidate. That's the only reason, really, you're there. However, as a delegate or an alternate, you could also get on different committees within the convention, all right, which are very important. We heard platform today. That's going to be one of the most important ones to make sure we save a solid platform. Did I answer everything? Okay.
So we're just gonna wrap up here because we do have another breakout session, but we are doing an RNC town hall at 11 o'clock. Just go ahead and check the agenda if you guys would come back. There will be more RNC members there. Again, the RNC members here are super helpful. They're incredibly intelligent, and please ask them any questions that you have. They are more than happy to help you guys. You'll see them around. They're part of the good ones in the RNC, and we absolutely have to get them reelected. And a lot of them have just been doing so much good within the RNC that it kind of gets overshadowed by Rana. So we want to make sure that we do support our conservatives that are in the RNC, and they are all here for the majority. Just to reiterate, this QR code, you just scan it. If you haven't scanned it and you are interested in running for delegate position, go ahead and scan it, fill out the form. One of our staff members will reach out, hopefully, sooner rather than later. If you will reach out, we'll try to get you guys situated. We'll see what your game plan is, what it means to be a delegate in that state. Turning Point Action is here to get people elected that are conservatives. That's our entire movement. We are the political arm of TPUSA. And so today is kind of your action day. So I hope you guys have a lot of fun today. Let's give a round of applause for,
So I have one thing before we leave. So a lot of the states have presidential preference elections. A lot of Republicans do not vote in the presidential preference elections. So make sure you go out and vote. Yeah. So we have an election. We have 3 elections, right? We have the presidential preference election, we have our primary election in some states, and then we have the general election. So make sure you get out, you go start talking to people, your neighborhood, encouraging people to vote in the presidential preference election, vote for the president that they want, and then make sure that they go and vote in the general election. It encourages people, to go out and vote. If you register voters, they're 80% more likely to turn out and vote if you re-register them or register them. So make sure, don't forget, we're all here, right? I know a lot of people probably in here don't vote in the PPEs. You're like, oh, we already know, the primary election's coming up, general, I'll vote then. Vote in each election, right? Every vote counts.
And then you can join one of our coalitions, which I think we're going to talk about next. So stay tuned, and thank you guys so much for coming.